Spell your name and what you do, please.
My name is William Flowers, WILLIAMFLOWERS, and I'm the Vice Chairman of the Georgia League of the South.
And where are you from?
I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta? Okay. So what brings you here today?
I came here today to support my fellow Southerners, Native Mississippians, in the defense of their heritage, and to stand up for the Southern people and be a speaker on behalf of their rights and their identity. Because right now we're engaged in a struggle with people who wish to destroy it.
What do you mean by wish to destroy the Southern heritage?
Well, what you're seeing now is a cultural genocide that's being carried out by a small revolutionary clique of cultural Marxists that have seized power in our media institutions, in our government, in our educational system, and we see the manifestation of their desires and what they're pushing upon the people. And this does not reflect the will of the people. It does not reflect the will of Southerners. And that's why I came here today to stand up and be a voice for the Southern people and a speaker for their rights, because they don't have effective speakers that are doing that right now, other than in the League of the South.
And you think that that's what this flag debate comes down to, is that it's a genocide of the Southern culture?
Absolutely. I think it's an attempt to eradicate the Southern culture and to completely detach the future generations from the symbols and the heritage of their forefathers. I think that that's the ultimate goal, is they wish to eventually have Southerners at a point where all of their heritage, all of their symbols, all of their stories, all of their monuments are relegated to some dark corner of some dusty museum where they will rarely be viewed by the public, when these symbols should be visible to the children and the great-grandchildren of the men who fought these battles in the past for our people.
So let me go ahead and ask you. I mean, how do you prevent that? I mean, if I gather from your
you fight. That's how you prevent it. You stand up and you fight. You stand up for your people when they need a voice, and you come out and you be courageous, you be honorable, you be noble, and you be virtuous. And you do not run and tuck tail when someone calls you a racist or a bigot or a hater. These words should run completely off of your back. You know, it's not about a hatred. It's about a love for our people. We love our own people. We love our own culture. You know, we want our progeny to enjoy the same Southland that we enjoyed and our fathers enjoyed and their fathers before them after that. This is not about slavery or any historical issues. This is about a living, breathing, flesh and blood, kith and kin nation, blood and soil. This land is ours. It belongs to the Southerners. You know, by our birthright, our forefathers conquered this land, and it belongs to the people of the South. And that will not change. Although it may if we don't fight. And that's why I'm here. I want to motivate the people to stand up and to secede once again.
So you're actually advocating for a Southern secession, a second Southern secession?
Absolutely. And unapologetically. We feel that the people in Washington no longer represent our interests. We feel that many of our own legislators in our own state capitals no longer represent or reflect the will of the people. Fortunately, so far the Mississippi governor is standing by the flag and has not come out to attempt to take it down. Even though there have been a lot of anti-flag rallies and a big movement here in Mississippi pushing for that, so far he stood firm. But I would be surprised if that continued. I hope it does, but I would be very surprised, because politicians are notorious in this country, and especially in the South, for stabbing their constituencies in the back. Look at Nikki Haley and what she's done.
So let me ask you. You know, I would have to assume that your position on secession, at least, is a minority position. Do you feel that way, or do you think that you represent a majority of Southerners?
I think I represent a majority of silent Southerners, those who don't have a voice. It doesn't take huge numbers in order to push a political activist campaign to have a Southern symbol removed. All you need is a small revolutionary vocal minority and the media to lend weight to their arguments and to side with them and say, yes, these symbols are racist, they're hateful, they represent slavery and oppression. And they use this media as a weapon. The media in this country has been weaponized. It's been used by leftist organizations and a leftist cultural Marxist agenda to basically try to sabotage the remembrance of the history of the Southern man, woman, and child. And I'm not going to stand for it as long as I'm alive and I have breath and a voice. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to fight back, however uncomfortable that makes people feel.
So I would have to make an assumption and say that you don't believe that let me phrase this. It would be. Could you at least understand where some folks may come from when they say that the Confederate flag does symbolize, at least to them, a symbol of hate or of at least oppression from the Civil War and to the Civil Rights Movement?
I can certainly understand why some of them feel that way, because they've been taught a history that by and large is not necessarily factually correct. They've been the tools and apparatuses of an agenda that is contrived to teach them these things and to teach them to hate Southern people and to hate Southern culture and to view Southern culture as the enemy and to view Southern people as the enemy. But this is not the case. This is not accurate. You know, people live relatively well in the Southland, and we all get along relatively fine. We do not see widespread racism and hatred. Now, there are a few isolated incidences where the media will pounce on and try to inflate this as if it's a problem every single where you turn in the South. And that is not an accurate representation of the Southland in which I was raised and where I grew up.
So where do you think this debate should go from here? And do you think that, you know, this debate is going to fizzle out, if you will, or do you think this is going to continue for the next a little while, at least?
I certainly hope that it does continue, and I'm going to do everything within my power to make sure that it does. We would like a political solution to this problem. The organization that I represent, the League of the South, we are not a political party. We are a political movement. Our goal is to build a mass movement and to reach out and grab the hearts and minds of our fellow Southerners and to pull them in with us into our cause to fight for themselves and to eventually assert their political will. And we can only do this if we stick together, if we unify, if we drop all the qualms that separate us and we come together as a single united struggle and force against our enemies. Then we can stop this nonsense.
And don't take this question the wrong way, because I really am trying to understand where you're coming from.
Sure.
You know, it would seem that, you know, if you're arguing for secession, some people would consider that treasonous, just like, you know, they considered a lot of folks in the South treasonous during the Civil War. I mean, is that something that you thought of, or do you think that's a mischaracterization?
Rebellion against tyranny, especially when that tyranny is emanating from a government that no longer represents the people, is not only a right here, but it is a duty. We have an obligation to our people, not our government. At least, that's the Southern nationalist view. Southern nationalism is about the Southern people, their survival, independence, and well-being. Southern nationalism is not about defending vultures in Washington who do not care about their people, who betray their people readily and stab them in the back. Southern nationalism is about defending Southern people and defending their livelihoods and their well-being. That's what Southern nationalism is.
All right, I greatly appreciate your time, sir. Is there anything you'd like to add or anything you think I forgot?
No, sir.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.